I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white as I pulled into the driveway. A sickening sensation churned in my stomach as I replayed the conversation between Grant and his mother, Elaine, that I had overheard earlier. My husband and my own mother-in-law were plotting to exclude me from the industry gala, an event crucial for my career advancement. As I entered the house, Grant greeted me with a forced smile, his eyes shifting nervously. "Hey, honey, how was your day?" I forced a casual tone, determined not to reveal that I knew about their deceitful plan. It was fine, just the usual meetings and client calls. Elaine emerged from the kitchen, her expression smug. "Sheridan, dear, I'm afraid there's a family emergency we need to discuss." I tensed, bracing myself for the lie they were about to spin. "What's going on?" Grant cleared his throat. "My uncle is in the hospital, and we need to fly out to be with him immediately. I'm so sorry, but it looks like we'll have to miss the gala." Rage simmered beneath my calm facade. They thought they could manipulate me so easily? Elaine had always treated me like an outsider, and now she was blatantly sabotaging my career aspirations. Summoning every ounce of self-control, I managed a concerned look. "Oh no, that's terrible news. Of course, family comes first. We can attend the next gala." Elaine's smirk deepened, and she patted my arm condescendingly. "I knew you'd understand, dear." As they disappeared into the study, I clenched my fists, determination coursing through me. If they wanted a war, they would get one. I would not let them destroy my dreams without a fight. With meticulous planning and strategic execution, I would expose their betrayal and emerge victorious, even if it meant burning bridges with my own family. After that confrontation, I knew I had to act fast. Elaine and Grant thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, but they were sorely mistaken. I may have played it cool in the moment, but inside, a storm was brewing, a silent vendetta simmering beneath the surface. The next morning, while Grant was at work and Elaine was out running errands, I seized the opportunity. With surgical precision, I searched their study, scouring every nook and cranny for evidence of their deceit. I found what I was looking for tucked away in Grant's drawer, a detailed log of Elaine's manipulative tactics over the years, meticulously documented. As I pored over the entries, a sickening pattern emerged. Elaine had been orchestrating events behind the scenes, pulling strings to undermine me at every turn. From sabotaging job opportunities to planting seeds of doubt in Grant's mind, she left no stone unturned in her quest to maintain control. I felt a mixture of rage and vindication course through my veins. This was the proof I needed, a damning trail of their betrayal laid bare before my eyes. With trembling hands, I methodically copied each entry, ensuring I had a comprehensive record of Elaine's machinations. This wasn't just about the gala anymore. This was about taking a stand against years of manipulation and emotional abuse. Later that evening, as Grant and Elaine sat in the living room, oblivious to my newfound knowledge, I remained stoic, biding my time. I knew that striking back impulsively would only play into their hands. No, I needed a calculated plan, a strategic counterattack that would leave them reeling. As I retreated to my home office, a steely determination settled over me. Elaine and Grant had underestimated me for far too long. It was time to show them the true extent of my resilience and resourcefulness. This was war, and I intended to emerge victorious no matter the cost. With the evidence of Elaine's betrayal securely in my possession, I knew I couldn't wage this battle alone. I needed an ally, someone I could trust implicitly. That's when Mariah came to mind, my closest friend and colleague, someone who had always had my back. I arranged to meet her for coffee, and as soon as she arrived, I wasted no time in laying out the sordid details of Elaine and Grant's deception. Mariah's eyes widened in disbelief as I recounted the overheard conversation and presented the damning log I had discovered. "That manipulative witch!" Mariah exclaimed, her voice laced with fury. "How could Grant go along with such a despicable plan?" I shook my head, my jaw clenched with determination. "That's the million-dollar question. But what's clear is that Elaine has been pulling the strings for far too long. This time, she's gone too far, and I'm not going to take it lying down." Mariah leaned forward, her eyes blazing with resolve. "What do you need me to do?" "I'm in, 100%. A sly smile crept across my face as I outlined my plan. Mariah was a marketing whiz, and with her expertise, we would orchestrate a counterattack that would leave Elaine and Grant reeling. Over the next few days, we worked tirelessly, crafting a strategy that would not only ensure my attendance at the gala, but also undermine Elaine's social standing and Grant's professional reputation. We utilized every resource at our disposal, leveraging connections and capitalizing on industry trends. As the pieces fell into place, a sense of exhilaration coursed through me. With Mariah by my side, I felt empowered, ready to take on the world, or at least the duplicitous duo of Elaine and Grant. The night before our plan was set into motion, Mariah and I shared a celebratory glass of wine, clinking our glasses in silent toast to our imminent victory. To putting those manipulative snakes in their place, Mariah declared, her eyes shining with determination. I nodded, a steely resolve etched onto my features. They started this war, but we're going to finish it on our terms. With Mariah's help, our plan was set in motion. We leveraged every connection and resource at our disposal to organize a spectacular pre-gala event, highlighting my contributions to the industry. On the night of the event, I arrived at the venue, poised and confident, donning a stunning outfit that demanded attention. Mariah greeted me with a conspiratorial wink, and together we worked the room like seasoned professionals. As the evening progressed, I took center stage, delivering a captivating speech that showcased my expertise and achievements. The room was abuzz with admiration, and I could feel the tide turning in my favor. Throughout the event, I caught glimpses of Elaine and Grant, their faces etched with barely concealed panic. They had clearly underestimated my determination and resourcefulness. As the night drew to a close, I found myself surrounded by industry influencers, all eager to express their admiration for my work. Elaine and Grant hovered on the periphery, their expressions a mixture of envy and defeat. "Sheridan, my dear, that was an absolute triumph," exclaimed one of the industry's most prominent figures, a woman whose respect Elaine had desperately craved. I smiled graciously, basking in the moment. "Thank you, Helen. It means so much coming from you." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Elaine's withering glare, and a surge of satisfaction coursed through me. The battle lines had been drawn, and I had scored the first decisive victory. As Mariah and I left the event, we shared a celebratory embrace, our laughter echoing through the night. "Did you see their faces?" Mariah chuckled. "They had no idea what hit them." I nodded, a sly grin spreading across my face. "Oh, they haven't seen anything yet. This was just the opening salvo. The real fireworks are yet to come." With renewed determination, we turned our attention to the upcoming gala where the final act of our revenge would unfold. Elaine and Grant might have thought they had me cornered, but little did they know, they had awoken a force to be reckoned with. A force that would stop at nothing until justice was served. The night of the gala had finally arrived, and I was ready. After the success of our pre-event, Elaine and Grant had to know that I wasn't going down without a fight. As Mariah and I made our grand entrance, all eyes were on us, and the looks on Elaine and Grant's faces were priceless. Elaine's mouth was agape, her perfectly coiffed hair and designer gown doing little to hide the panic in her eyes. Grant, on the other hand, shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet my gaze. As we glided across the room, industry bigwigs showered us with compliments and congratulations, much to Elaine's chagrin. It was clear that our pre-gala event had cemented my reputation, and Elaine's carefully cultivated social standing was crumbling before her very eyes. "Sheridan, darling, you look absolutely radiant," purred Helen, the industry titan whose admiration Elaine had so desperately coveted. I flashed a dazzling smile, reveling in Elaine's barely concealed fury. "Why, thank you, Helen. It's so wonderful to see you here." From the corner of my eye, I caught Elaine attempting to interject, but Helen merely waved her off, her attention firmly fixed on me. As the evening wore on, the tide continued to turn in my favor. Mariah and I had strategically planted seeds of doubt among the attendees, subtly hinting at Elaine and Grant's duplicitous behavior. With each whispered rumor and knowing glance, their carefully constructed facade began to crumble. At one point, I found myself face to face with Elaine, her eyes narrowed and her perfectly painted lips twisted into a sneer. "You think you've won, don't you?" she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. I met her gaze unflinchingly, a triumphant smile playing on my lips. I don't think, Elaine. I know. Before she could respond, another industry luminary swept in, offering effusive praise for my achievements. Elaine was left sputtering, her grip on the social hierarchy slipping through her perfectly manicured fingers. As the night drew to a close, Grant pulled me aside, his expression a mix of shame and resignation. "Sheridan, he began, but I held up a hand, silencing him. "Save it, Grant," I said, my voice steely. "You made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences." With that, I turned on my heel, leaving him to contemplate the wreckage of his misguided allegiance to his mother. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Elaine and Grant had underestimated me for far too long, and now they would face the full force of my wrath. The aftermath of the gala was like a calm before the storm. As Mariah and I basked in the glow of our triumph, we knew the real reckoning was yet to come. And sure enough, it didn't take long for Grant to confront me. "Sheridan, we need to talk," he said, his voice strained as he entered the living room where I was lounging. I leveled him with an icy glare, my anger still simmering just beneath the surface. "Talk? Now you want to talk? After you and your mother tried to sabotage my career?" Grant's shoulders slumped, and he ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I knew all too well. "I know, I screwed up, but what you did at the gala? It was humiliating." I let out a derisive laugh. "Humiliating? You have no idea what true humiliation feels like, Grant. Your mother has been manipulating and belittling me for years, and you just stood by and let it happen." His eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of realization cross his features. "Is that what this is all about? Sheridan, I had no idea." "Of course you didn't," I snapped, rising to my feet. "You were too busy being Mommy's perfect little boy to see the truth." Grant flinched at my words, and a heavy silence fell between us. Finally he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want from me, Sheridan?" I fixed him with a steely gaze, my mind made up. "I want you to make a choice. It's either me or your mother, because I'm done playing second fiddle to that manipulative witch." Grant opened his mouth to respond, but I held up a hand, cutting him off. "Don't answer me now. Think about it carefully, because this is your one and only chance. Betray me again, and it's over for good." With that, I turned and stormed out of the room, leaving Grant to wrestle with the ultimatum I had laid at his feet. The ball was in his court now, but I had a feeling that no matter what he decided, the fallout would be catastrophic, especially for his precious mother. In the days following my confrontation with Grant, the tension in our home was palpable. Elaine, sensing the shift in power dynamics, became increasingly desperate in her attempts to regain control. "What did you say to my son?" she demanded one evening, cornering me in the kitchen. I met her gaze unflinchingly, refusing to be intimidated. I simply told him the truth, that he needs to choose between his wife and his manipulative mother. Elaine's perfectly sculpted features contorted into a sneer. "How dare you? After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" I couldn't help but let out a derisive laugh. "Everything you've done for me? You mean undermining me at every turn, sabotaging my career, and turning my own husband against me? Yes, Elaine, I'm truly indebted to you." Her eyes narrowed dangerously, but before she could respond, Grant entered the room, his expression grave. "Mother, we need to talk," he said, his voice carrying a weight I hadn't heard before. Elaine turned to him, her demeanor shifting in an instant. "Of course, darling. What is it?" Grant took a deep breath, and then the words tumbled out. "I know what you've been doing, Mom. All the lies, the manipulation. It stops now." Elaine's face drained of color as Grant recounted the evidence I had uncovered, laying bare her years of deceit. With each damning detail, her composure crumbled, and I couldn't help but revel in her downfall. As Grant finished, there was a tense silence, broken only by Elaine's ragged breathing. "How could you?" she finally hissed, her perfectly manicured nails digging into her palms. "After everything I've done for this family." Grant shook his head, his expression a mix of sadness and resolve. "No, Mother, you've done everything for yourself, and in the process, you've nearly destroyed my marriage." Elaine opened her mouth to protest, but Grant held up a hand, silencing her. "It's over, Mom. I'm done enabling your toxic behavior. From now on, things are going to change, starting with a public apology to Sheridan." As the weight of his words sank in, Elaine's mask of composure shattered, and she let out a wail of anguish. In that moment, I felt a sense of vindication, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The woman who had tormented me for years was finally getting her comeuppance, and it was all thanks to Grant's newfound courage. As Elaine stormed out of the room, her carefully cultivated world crumbling around her, I turned to Grant, a hint of a smile playing on my lips. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. In the aftermath of Elaine's public humiliation, an uneasy truce settled over our household. Grant, finally liberated from his mother's toxic influence, seemed determined to make amends. But I remained guarded, unwilling to let my guard down so easily after years of betrayal. One evening, as we sat in the living room, Grant broke the silence. "Sheridan, we need to talk about what happens next." I arched an eyebrow, my expression wary. "I'm listening." Grant took a deep breath, his eyes filled with a mix of remorse and resolve. "I know I've made mistakes, grave ones, and I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, but I want you to know that I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to rebuild the trust I've shattered." His words hung in the air, and for a moment I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me yearned to believe him, to embrace the possibility of a fresh start, but the wounds ran deep, and I knew that healing would not come easily. "Words are cheap, Grant," I said finally. "If you're serious about fixing this, you need to prove it with actions." He nodded, his expression solemn. "You're right, and that's why I think we need to take some time apart, at least physically." I blinked, taken aback by his suggestion. "What do you mean?" I think it's best if I move out for a while," he explained. "Give us both some space to breathe and really reflect on what we want. And during that time, I'll be cutting off all contact with my mother." A flicker of hope ignited within me at his words. Could this be the clean break I'd been longing for? A chance to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of trust and respect, free from Elaine's toxic influence? And if, after that time, we both still want to make this work, we can start fresh, Grant continued, with clear boundaries in place, especially when it comes to my mother. I studied him intently, searching for any hint of deception or wavering resolve, but in his eyes I saw only sincerity and determination. Finally I nodded. "All right, let's give it a try." Relief washed over Grant's features, and he reached out, tentatively taking my hand in his. "Thank you, Sheridan. I know I have a lot to make up for, but I promise I'm going to spend every day proving to you that I'm worth a second chance." As he uttered those words, I allowed myself to feel a glimmer of hope. Hope that perhaps we could emerge from this ordeal stronger and more united than ever before. It wouldn't be easy, but if there was one thing this experience had taught me, it was that I was stronger than I ever imagined. With a deep breath, I squeezed Grant's hand, silently acknowledging the first tentative step on our journey towards healing and renewal.